They're $100,000 per year.
Donald Trump has signed a proclamation. Now, this will require the new annual fee of $1 lakh.
Trump has announced big changes, a steep new fee on H-1B visas for high-skilled foreign workers.
Is it about America first or hitting India again so that it succumbs? What is this new H-1B visa policy? How it affects India but also impacts US in many more ways that needs to be understood. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh and today we are going to talk about that how Trump's new H-1B visa policy marks a new era in terms of US immigration and how it is not just about a fee hike but also enforcement measures which come through Project Firewall. What it means for India and most importantly how it might backfire for US as well. So let us start with understanding the announcement. In the announcement, a new H-1B visa policy has been unveiled, and in this policy, an annual sum of $100,000 will be levied on many H-1B visa petitions that are being put up. If we talk about this particular amount, this amount is around 90 lakhs, and this is absolutely coming in a great number if you compare it to the earlier fees. If we're talking about $1,500 to $4,000 that was seen. Now the whole objective of this policy is that to make sure that it is protecting the jobs, especially for US workers. Furthermore, it is also about wage suppression reduction and especially tightening control in terms of skilled immigration that is happening into US. Now, this is in very much alignment with Donald Trump's America's First policy, where he has brought in this narrative for not just the campaign, but if you see his key policy measures, they can be understood that how he is targeting this particular narrative, and this unveilment is another way of showing that he still stands by his America First policy that was talking about. Furthermore, this also comes in the time when US was seeing increased political pressure because of there were a lot of concerns about job outsourcing as well as wage depression that is taking place specifically in tech and services. Furthermore, this is also about regulatory continuity. Basically, there have been already prior efforts that have been taken in this very direction to curb the visa misuse that has been seen internally in US, and that is why they are going hands down on immigration. Illegal immigration is being tackled in a very harsh way, but here when we are talking about proper immigration, that is also not being spared in this particular situation. So this has come out even after there have been revolts that H-1B visa policy should be facilitated, be it Elon Musk and multiple other such personalities have promoted the idea that H-1B visa facilitates innovation in US, it helps with them with their economy, and this should not be curbed out, and even after that this announcement has been made. Now the actual question here is, before we move on to understand more details that how it will impact, what are the implications, let us get into the details that what exactly is H-1B visa that we are talking about. So H-1B visa is nothing but a non-immigrant visa when it is given for non-immigrant visa that is given for specialty occupations. That means advanced skills wherever they are required. That is where H-1B visa is given in US. Why this is given? What is the need? Basically, there are gaps in US labor market, especially when we are talking about STEM fields, and to address that, this policy, this whole visa, non-immigrant visa is in place. Now, every year there is a proper quota system in which 65,000 new applications are opened, plus 20,000 are left for US advanced degree holders. So any immigrant who has completed his advanced degree in US, that 20,000 application is left for them. If we talk about validity of this visa, this is for 3 years and it is renewable, and the compliance of this totally lies with labor condition application, which looks into wage parity also and working conditions of immigrants. Now, this will bring us to the main point when you have understood what exactly is H1B visa, that why are we directly talking about Indian economy and Indians the moment H1B visa conversation starts. We are talking about this because 70% of approvals that are given every year, it constitutes of Indians concentrated in the industries such as IT, biotech, engineering, healthcare, etc. And once these approvals are threatened by this heightened fee that has been levied, that means it is going to impact not just the synergy that exists between India and US in terms of tech, but also other economic parameters, which we'll gradually get into understanding. Let us look into more numbers to get a more detailed idea of H1B visa. So if you see the numbers that are given here, the top occupations that are granting H1B visas, you will find the app software developers, computer system architects, system software developers. That means this is the place where STEM gap is being addressed, especially headlined by IT. And top countries of origin remain India, China and Canada. And the stark difference in numbers will show you that how India is leading in this. Even this graph, if you see from 2003 to 2023, China, which is the second top country in terms of origin of the visa holders, you will find that the numbers are drastically different for India as well as China in here, and they have been so. So, when we are talking about the petitions, approved petitions, you can see the number has been as high as almost 4 lakhs approved ones, and in which almost 2,80,000 are coming from India, and this number gradually has increased. It is not about just crushing their aspirations with this hefty fee, but also how this is going to dynamically impact India and US both. Now, if we talk about this H1B visa policy, this has been a key point when we are talking about US immigration policy. यहाँ पे US immigration policy की जब भी बात हुई है, H1B visa जो है एक मेन कॉर्नर स्टोन रहा है, और चाहे हम डोनाल्ड ट्रंप के पिछले टर्म की बात करें, इस टर्म की बात करें, यहाँ पे हमने चेंजेस इसके बारे में देखे. इवन द जो बिडेन टर्म दैट वाज सीन इन बिटवीन, देयर वाज focus on H1B visa policy, but the policies have greatly differed. So this will show you that how the narrative that is being set, especially as of now, varies differently. So what I was saying, that the difference that has been taken in terms of policy landscape has been eventually very different. Even though Donald Trump calls India their very best friend, the Prime Minister their very best friend, but the policy landscape that has been shown, it has shown something very different. So for example, if we talk about Donald Trump, in his very term, we find this excessive hike that have been seen so that there is deterrence to bulk hiring, ताकि यहाँ पे bulk hiring ना हो. But अगर हम डोनाल्ड ट्रंप के टाइम पे बात करें तो किसी तरह की कोई भी नई फीस जो है नहीं लगाई थी. There was no new fees. There was preference for Donald Trump. Highest level salaries, they will be the ones to get H1B visa, and limiting the low tiers, but the wage bands were kept very flexible during the Biden term, where we had seen more focus on fraud checks. And if you talk about the Donald Trump time, there is a narrow specialty role, and it is narrowing down in terms of high-end jobs as well, which clearly highlights that there will be a 30% drop that is expected, especially in the mid-tier information technology. Furthermore, the difference that is in the term of narrative that was set. Donald Trump is focusing on protectionist, cost-heavy and inward-looking policy, whereas Joe Biden was talking about reformist and efficiency-driven policy. These numbers are indicating nothing but the fact that how the bulk hiring is the immediate concern of President Donald Trump, and he wants to restrict it through extreme measures, be it the immense hike that we have in front of us, or be it enforcement measures. So when we are talking about enforcement measures such as Project Firewall has also been taken up. Project Firewall has been announced parallelly with this new fee hike, and this is basically about Labour Secretary's approval about any investigations. So the whole idea is to make sure there is wage integrity, there is fraud control and worker protection, especially for US employees, and safeguard them for any sort of displacement. And there are proper tools and mechanisms which have been set in place. There will be scope for audits, penalties and bans that can be done by Labour Secretary. The whole idea of this two-pronged approach is, one, to restrict the bulk hiring, and second, to clean up and make sure everything is going right in the country. But now let us talk about that how that it impacts India. So when we are talking about implications for India, we get to see the fact that there will be a direct economic effect, and the biggest risk and the biggest hit that would be seen would be over IT sector. Indian major companies like Infosys, TCS, they will be facing squeezed margins in coming time, and there will be a startup impact also. For example, small service providers, they will withdraw from US projects because of such policies and such fee hike that we get to see. So when we talk about impact for India, the biggest impact would be especially in terms of economic factors, and the biggest hit would be seen on the IT sector. When we are talking about Indian major giants in IT, be it Infosys, be it TCS, Wipro, they are very much reliant on sending skilled labor, especially on H1B visas, to US, and this costly deployment will have affect their margins in coming time. Furthermore, when we are talking about startups, especially small service providers which work on very tight margins, limited funds, they might have to withdraw from US, which will not only affect innovation, which will not only affect employment, but also the services. That will also impact the global exposure of such small service providers, and all of this will also bring an effect on the adjustment that need to be made. Either such companies would have to come offshore, that means they might have to come back to India, or they might have to look for alternative places, be it Canada and Mexico. And this is the time where diplomacy will play an important role, where it can help us to seek exemptions, especially for high value sectors, because it is going to directly impact our balance of payment, because this will directly bring in a slowdown, especially in Indian IT service exports that are done to US, which forms a very important chunk of our service exports. And then it is obviously, as I started this conversation with, this will be another friction point between India and US dialogues, where there are enough flashpoints existing already. Now this story is not just about India, that how it will have a direct impact in here, but it is also about US, that US needs to think that what it might lead to an impact internally. So when we are looking at US, we are finding that there are multiple innovation concerns which have not been brought in just now, but they have existed for long, be it the talent shortage, because of which they have H1B visa policy in place. It could directly lead to upcoming scarcity, be it in AI, semiconductor and life sciences. It will also affect the research and development trajectory. Government is directly pushing companies to shift their research centers offshore and basically move out. So when we are talking about a highly developed economy which will be facing a talent shortage, which will be having a R&D flight in the times where it is already in the question that it is gliding towards dipped growth rates, this is a very questionable position for US to be. Furthermore, we are also expecting that it will also have legal and regulatory challenges, because as soon as the announcement has been made, there is expected that lawsuits can come up. They will be delaying the fee hike, they will be overturning it, and by the time there is no clarity that what actually is happening, the hiring will not take place because of the ambiguity that exists. Furthermore, this will also directly fuel a diplomatic and strategic fallout because it comes in between the tech partnerships of US and India, and it also affects the global standing of US because US at this point of time lies in a very turmoiled atmosphere where one does not know what policy might kick in when, which is not just going to impact the immigrants but also the investors and the sentiments that exist there. Now that was all from my side. You can let me know your doubts in the comment section. Thank you so much.